The next day, my entire life had shifted in a way I could never have predicted. The hallway outside my apartment smelled of warm toast and floor cleaner. Sunlight slanted through the narrow windows, and somewhere above me a radio played softly, ordinary sounds wrapping around a moment that would change two lives at once. Before the story goes any further, if you believe that kindness deserves second chances and that small words can become life-saving moments, please take a second to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Touch of Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. My name is Rowan Hale, and I lived in a quiet, aging apartment building that had seen better days but still held warmth in its bones. Most mornings were the same for me. I worked from home restoring old photographs for families who wanted their memories repaired, so daylight hours mattered. I loved the way sunlit dust floated across my desk, how faces from the past slowly came back to life under my careful hands. It was peaceful work, the kind that let me breathe after a difficult chapter in my own life, one I had closed quietly and never reopened. The building suited me. Neighbors nodded politely, the walls were thin but forgiving, and everyone kept to themselves, except Mara Linwood. Mara lived across the hall, and for months I had noticed the way her presence felt like a storm contained behind a door. She was in her early 30s, with tired eyes that looked older than the rest of her face, and she moved through the hall as if trying to make herself smaller. Her footsteps were quick and careful. Some mornings she left before sunrise, some afternoons she returned with groceries clutched tightly, her shoulders tense, as if bracing for impact. I never heard loud arguments or crashing sounds, just a heavy silence that followed her like a shadow, broken sometimes by a muffled sob that drifted through the thin walls when the building settled at night. I tried to mind my own business. I told myself everyone carried invisible weight, that it was not my place to pry. But one afternoon, as sunlight filled the hallway and the building felt unusually alive, I saw her sitting on the stairwell, her face buried in her hands, grocery bags tipped over beside her. Apples had rolled across the steps, catching the light like small red warnings. I knelt to help without thinking, gathering the fruit and placing it back into the bag. Her eyes were red, her breathing uneven, and for a moment she looked startled, as if kindness had caught her off guard. We sat there longer than expected, the stairwell warm and quiet, dust motes dancing between us. I did not ask questions, and she did not offer explanations. But as she wiped her face and thanked me softly, something in my chest tightened. When she stood to leave, shoulders hunched as usual, the words escaped me before caution could stop them. I told her, gently but firmly, that she deserved better than whatever was weighing her down, better than living like she was constantly apologizing for existing. The words hung in the air, heavy and bright all at once. She froze, then nodded without looking back, carrying her bags up the stairs. I stood there afterward, heart pounding, wondering if I had crossed a line. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I returned to my desk, but the photographs blurred together, faces losing focus as my thoughts kept returning to the look in her eyes, a mix of fear and something dangerously close to hope. That night, sleep came in fragments. Morning light woke me early, flooding my apartment with gold. I made coffee, listening to the building wake up around me, and tried to shake the feeling that something was about to happen. At a little past 8, as I was adjusting the curtains, a knock echoed through my apartment. It was firm but hesitant, the kind of knock that asked permission even while standing there. When I opened the door, Mara stood in the hallway with 2 worn suitcases at her feet and a canvas bag slung over her shoulder. Her hair was pulled back hastily, eyes swollen but clear, and the morning light framed her like a beginning. She looked exhausted and terrified and determined all at once. The hallway felt suddenly too small for the weight of the moment. Without a single dramatic word, she stepped forward slightly, as if asking the world whether it would catch her this time. I moved aside and let her in, heart pounding louder than the city outside. She set her bags down carefully, like placing something fragile on unfamiliar ground, and stood there unsure of what came next. The apartment felt different with another person inside, fuller and more vulnerable. Sunlight filled the room, landing on the scuffed floor, and the photos lining my shelves, images of families stitched back together through patience and care. Over the next hours, she told me everything without speaking in direct quotes, just letting the story pour out in halting waves. She had been living with a partner who never hit her, but chipped away at her sense of self daily, controlling money, friendships, even the way she laughed. Every decision required permission. Every mistake was magnified. She had convinced herself that endurance was strength, that staying quiet was survival. My simple sentence on the stairwell had cracked something open, reminding her of a version of herself she had buried to keep the peace. We spent the morning sorting through practical things in the daylight, the safest time to plan a new beginning. I helped her call a local support center, wrote down addresses, and offered my couch without conditions or timelines. The air between us was heavy but hopeful, the kind of quiet that follows a storm when everything feels newly washed. Days turned into weeks, and the apartment transformed. Mara found a job at a nearby bakery that filled the building with the smell of fresh bread every afternoon. She laughed more, tentatively at first, like someone testing ice after a long winter. We shared meals, stories, and silences that felt companionable rather than strained. Healing did not happen all at once. Some mornings she woke shaken by old fears. Some afternoons she doubted herself, but each day the light seemed to linger a little longer. Watching her reclaim pieces of herself changed me too. I realized how much of my own life I had put on pause after past disappointments, choosing solitude because it felt safer. Helping her step into something better reminded me that isolation was not the same as peace. Kindness, I learned, was not about rescuing someone, but about standing nearby while they discovered their own strength. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the windows and dust danced lazily, Mara baked bread in the small kitchen, humming softly. The sound filled the apartment with warmth, and I felt an unexpected ache behind my ribs, the good kind that comes from witnessing something real. She had begun looking for her own place, saving money, planning carefully. There was no rush, no pressure, just steady forward motion. As her last week with me approached, emotions grew complicated. Gratitude mingled with sadness, pride with fear of the quiet returning. On her final morning, the apartment was bathed in light again, just like the day she arrived. She packed her remaining things slowly, pausing often to look around as if memorizing the space that had held her during her hardest step. Before she left, she hugged me tightly, the kind of embrace that carries entire chapters inside it. She stepped into the hallway lighter than the day she arrived, shoulders squared, eyes lifted. Watching her walk away toward a life she had chosen, I felt something settle inside me, a deep certainty that words spoken with care can change trajectories. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you of a moment when kindness mattered more than caution, please take a moment near the end of this video to like, share, and stay connected with Touch of Kindness. Your engagement helps these stories travel to people standing on the edge of their own brave decisions. And before the ending, here is a special request to comment. Please write in the comments about a time when a simple sentence changed your life or someone else's. Your story might be the light someone else needs today.